Recording in progress.
So let's call to order the September 5, 2023 work session of Lower Southford Township Board of Supervisors, and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance. All right, this brings us to our agenda item, the Public Works Director, Mr. Doug.
Good morning, thank you. Just an update on some projects. The streetlight project, a number of us that attended the lighting management system training a few weeks ago. We were working on establishing users and their roles within the system so that we can manage our streetlights moving forward. Continuing to move forward with that project.
Doug, quick question on that. Is that complete, or is there still some fixtures that have to be?
There are a number of fixtures that were back ordered.
Okay,
Most of those were the shoebox lights in a couple of different developments that we're still waiting for.
okay,
We're 95% complete.
okay,
And then once we get the lighting management system up, we can see what's out there and then do a verification to make sure that nothing was missed. Because the whole time we were trying to coordinate between Pico's records, our records, and there's obviously some gaps there that we need to pick up. So there is contingency money in our budget and our funding that we have. So we'll be able to pick up those. So hopefully we have a complete and comprehensive picture of all of our streetlights.
there's that one odd fixture at 113 and Maple. That is, if you're coming up Maple to 113. It's up there on the pole and the glass lens is actually hanging down. It's kind of awkward.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I see that and just want to make sure it's on your radar. That's all.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how that or when, where, how that appeared, but I'll make sure of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. On your agenda for tomorrow night is the approval of the 2023 construction equipment rental contract. This is an hourly rate contract for equipment rental for various projects we have planned over the next year. Future community center and public works facilities. Boyle Construction and KSD Architects have been working on the concept plans. Been a number of revisions on the public works facilities. On August 11th, all the stakeholders for the community center met to review their concept drawings and provide feedback. It was a positive response from everyone that was in attendance. So they're working on those. I think they have another set of revised plans that are available, and we're meeting this Friday, I believe it is, to go over the second round of those revisions. I lead me into the second part of item on the agenda on the public works for grant consulting services. This is for large scale public projects. A few months ago, I attended a webinar by the company GMS Funding Solutions presented on grant opportunities for public projects. They're a consulting firm out of Carlisle, PA, that specializes in securing funding for public projects or competitive grant processes, programs. Joe and I discussed the possibility of meeting with them to see whether there's applicability for what we're looking into. So we met with them, went through their little dog and pony show, obviously, in agreements and references. So I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention for discussion. It may be a little premature for where we are with our projects. And they also provided some references. I spoke to one of the references, a gentleman named Corey Adams. He's a manager at South Middleton Township, and he had nothing but the highest praise for what they do and the value that they bring. They have a number of projects that they've been working on over the last few years. And they've obtained between $12 and $15 million worth of grant funding for these projects, so. The only thing that, what we were talking about when we met with GMS was that the local share account grant through the legislature is available now, it'll be through the end of November. So if it's something from a planning standpoint or for preliminary work, if that's something we would want to pursue. Apparently there is a line item in the budget for public works facility. So, and apparently there are also a number of other line items in the state budget, according to the email that I got from GMS, that might be appropriate for planning purposes. Not an inexpensive proposition. The way they handle their agreements is they charge a monthly fee, which is $5,500 per month plus expenses. And it's a minimum of 12-month engagement. But they will handle basically soup to nuts if we want them to, from writing the grants, applying the grants, seeking out the various programs that might be applicable for whatever projects we're looking into through the grant administration, the lobbying with the legislatures to try to ensure that funding is secured. So I just wanted to bring it to the board for your discussion to see if it's something we would want to consider pursuing.
I had just a few questions. I looked over the contract last night. I was hoping there'd be a representative, but if you could ask one question, I would just have this. Two actually. There's want to know the percentage of last time they had to increase their fees, and then how much of a percentage? Because it does say, you know, once the contract they can increase their fees, assuming it's a small percentage. I was just curious how often that might be something.
Or we're not to assume that, right?
Right. The other question I had, I was going to ask, I saw a limit on the arbitration clause disputes. I've never seen that since we've done things there. I've seen other ones that we signed says that if it goes to arbitration on any dispute, whoever's at fault will pay the arbitrator. Well, this says in the writing, I think it's under. Just look out to me because it says the awarded, so whoever goes to arbitrator, the award will not exceed for the client 50,000 or any amount equal to the amount paid for the services, whichever is less. At 10 months, we're already at 55,000. So my idea is a good arbitration. We assume that that's a fair arbitrator who would make a fair assessment. So let's say they say, oh, look at this, you owe the town 75,000. So we're only giving you 50. It just didn't seem right to me. I've never seen that in there. So the word that says whichever is less, in my opinion, whichever is more. Or get rid of the limit.
That's a contractual thing we have to get out.
I mean, this goes to the, and they say for some reason, we have
The solicitor's office, take a look at this contract.
Looking at this. Conceptually, is it something that we would want to entertain, is to bringing someone on to manage this process? And in the hopes that, you know, we were successful in gaining experience to soften the burden. Yeah, obviously we would have the solicitor's office review any agreement just to make sure that there are no issues. And the only reason there's just even the slightest push is because of the LSA grant opportunity that's out there. But and Joe and I haven't really even had a chance to fully discuss this, and you know, we talked about our initial impressions, and you know, it'd be nice to know if you know they what percentage of the projects, you know, are they getting 5%, 10%, or is it 50%? But yeah, so they're the kind of questions that we haven't really delved into to get answers on.
my other big question, though, that I think Dory answered it, it's just a record. I know in your letter you said you would supply something. Good to hear.
With this, yeah.
Never
One
mind.
local.
Yeah, I think my only question, I like the concept. Obviously, we've been very successful with McMahon, any of our traffic programs. I don't know if their services extend beyond just transportation related, which would be an opportunity to look at an look at multiple vendors for the similar service. I only think that we're slightly premature understanding the one specific item. In that I'd like to define further the full scope of the budget for like, are we moving forward the public works garage? Are we looking at doing the community center? What is the scope of the budget? And then, if they're able to get us $1 million, but we have a $16 million budget, there's a different story than if there's a path here to get half of it through some of these types of strategies. But I don't think we can have that strategy discussion until we know the scope of the project. We're getting there. And I also think that it's such a large undertaking for any of these, between the combined use of the township, the communication, we have to build public support behind this to be part of it, rather than, hey, we've done this, we got all this funding, and here's the completed package. I think due to a previous experience in a previous municipality when I was a township manager many years ago, that's where it sort of fell apart. They got too far ahead of them in trying to get some of these results. So I'd just like to I think they're great. I think it's a great idea. I just think we need to keep this in mind as we, a step or two down the road. Really, my thought.
Right. This was just.
Yep.
And it just said, okay. And not knowing at what point do we bring them in.
Correct.
And, so we decided to meet with them early on. Maybe there's an opportunity early, but maybe it's a wait and see until we kind of get our ducks lined up a little better before we, and who else, I don't know who else is even out there that does this type of work.
And what I like about this is that they manage the grants
Right.
after they're secured, so,
Right.
it takes kind of that burden off of.
I think when we're at that stage, I think this is for this size project would be foolish. The investment is probably going to reap a much greater reap, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's absolutely worth the expenditures, and this is absolutely one of those. So I think they're, I think just from the behind the scenes efforts that, it seems like everybody on the municipal level falls down on in trying to secure these grants is probably one of the biggest benefits to having someone, a firm like this on board.
But I think good
For
question.
lobbying efforts, there are definitely some grant programs that require effort beyond the letters of support. There's an expectation that some of the local representatives, state senators and so forth, are going to go up and beyond writing the letter. They're going to have to meet with people. And I think that part of their job is to coordinate all of that. And they obviously have people in Harrisburg who know where to go.
And I think the other follow-up question for them, along with Kevin's, and obviously this is a loaded question since they get paid by the month. When do they typically see? When are they most effectively brought in to this? At what stage? They could probably say yesterday, always, but with where we are in the process to where they normally are brought in, because I don't also want to say, hey, we got all this done and then we're a year late in starting this process too. So if they can provide some advice on that of when would be appropriate to at least feedback from their experience. Because some of that is, if it is lobbying, it could be 2 years for a bridge, like when we did the bridge bill and all. I mean, some of that takes some time to build that support. So
Maybe even the references could provide that information, when did they come in and start your project?
and do they regret they didn't do it 6 months earlier or anything like that?
So you're meeting with Boyle. So where are we at with those folks in terms of them returning to us to discuss, I guess? Maybe you said this already if I missed it.
I didn't,
Okay.
Originally it was supposed to be today.
I thought it was coming up, so that's kind of where I was going.
Based on the stakeholders meeting and some
Changes
and kind of options that are being considered. They had to take a step back and kind of take another look at the whole project, mostly the community center site. So my guess is probably going to be at the October meeting that they have them here and present to the entire board. I mean, you want to see the preliminaries, the concepts, so be happy to forward the data.
No, I think that the appropriate time is once they've digested what the stakeholders' interests are and what the public works, what you guys want. We'll look at it then and then we'll try to see where we go from there.
Yeah, the community center stakeholder meeting, I think they got some really good feedback, particularly from the Lions. They had made some assumptions on how they operate that were good assumptions, but once they were clarified, it actually freed up some of what could be done and maybe make it a little less expensive, a little less rigid in the way it was laid out. And I think that's where they're working on now to come back to us.
Right. And
But
was various reasons. There's another assumption that are kind of built in, or are going to be built into this next round of steps for consideration.
So I guess where I was gonna go with this is if with that knowledge, maybe, engaging GMS as a, 2024 budget item, right? Kind of to move this thing along. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
All right.
One more question.
I'm done yet, sorry.
Oh, you were done. You were done. He's not done. Nobody's done. Now, we will.
I can be done. What?
No.
The announcements for the Green Lake Go grant were made a few weeks ago, so the township was awarded over $358,000 for traffic signal equipment upgrades. And this is go hand in hand with the TST grant that we were awarded for the adaptive system along the Main Street corridor. So now all the equipment will be optimized for the new system and should have a state-of-the-art system along Main Street corridor. Order for road basins, we're still waiting for the contractor to complete their grading work. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's the holdup.
Growing a lot of weeds out there.
A lot of weeds there, so it's, yeah. So we're still working on that with CKS.
Yeah, how much more work do they have? Like, if they came in and hit it hard, did a week to get in there and
Done or not. So I think that kind of, stalled everything. It's just been difficult to get some momentum going and get it back up and going again. But our portion of it is the final grading or the final seeding and stabilization. So we need them to get in there before
Finish
we
it up,
run out
yeah.
of room.
Yeah. Because we're coming into a good season here.
To make the push. Just some department activities. Did some drainage and paving work on Button Road near the Mainly Golf Course, maintenance barn, painted golf cart crossings and signs. We completed the pipe placement on Moyer Road near the school. It was a 42-inch equivalent elliptical pipe, corrugated metal. Replaced it with a 36-inch HDPE. We had a number of utility conflicts there. There was a gas main that was not in the way, but a little bit of a challenge. And there was also a sanitary sewer force main that nobody really kind of knew was there. So we ended up, and what they ended up doing, I don't know who was there first, but the storm pipe was actually squashed and then, so instead of a 35-inch, it was down to a 24-inch opening, and then force main was running right on the top of it.
It wasn't an intended squash pipe?
It was.
Oh, okay,
They exaggerated the squash.
I got it.
We ended up working with the sewer authority and then relocated the force main and went down pipe, put in our round pipe in there, so now we've got full flowing 36-inch pipe. It's all good now. Completed some pavement markings at various locations. We're still working on the new pickleball courts at Reed Park. The surfacing will be done, scheduled for next week, weather permitting. Began the rain garden project at the community center. This is in conjunction with the Perkins Watershed Conservancy, and this is funded through North Penn Water Authority.
Is there, just as a question, because obviously we know people have tended to park in that area over time. Is there any fencing or anything going up around it to affect? So on opening day of baseball next year, we'll probably have people parking in the rain garden.
I'm hoping not.
Okay.
I had suggested maybe we should include some boulders in it, but I did not hear back.
Okay. Just once it's done, it may get signage or something, yeah, just to protect it. It's stupid. Middle school events.
But took delivery of our new tandem truck weeks ago. Also, we have a persistent problem with geese at Off Park and around the pond. Outside my office last week or a week or so ago, there were close to 100 geese And they just leave a mess everywhere, as you know. So I stumbled upon this device, it's called a Goose Buster. And actually, it's a recorded device, and some goose whisperer somewhere figured out that goose distress calls, alert calls, and alarm calls, apparently 3 different types of calls. That this plays through a speaker randomly at random intervals and random tones and everything that it's supposed to encourage the geese to move along. So we installed that last week, and jury's still out. There's still been dropping this morning, so hopefully that's gonna solve the issue, at least minimize the issue. Apparently the ducks don't seem to be bothered by it.
It is really difficult.
That is all that I have.
I just have a quick question regarding trees along the white path through the middle of the town. There's some that are painted with a pink X. I'm assuming they're slated for removal.
They are. Yes, we're trying to.
It's a lot of trees.
Unfortunately, I have, the local contractor that we use is in the process of becoming a CoStar's vendor. So then we don't have to worry about the bidding threshold, the expenditures, with them, and they are just a fantastic contractor that we'll call them. So, you know, they just do great work and never have to worry. It's done right, it's done professionally. So I'm waiting to get the paperwork from them and then really start between them and what we can handle ourselves. Let's try and knock out, you know, a good portion of all these dead trees that are throughout the township.
Definitely a challenge.
It certainly is.
Thanks for keeping on it.
No problem.
My question was regarding the pickleball. Thank
Thank you.
Anything else? For the good of the order. All right. Lovely.
Yes, sir. Quick update on hiring. Our applications have been a bit slow. We have until the end of the month. So hesitate to extend it if needed. I'm looking for at least 5 to 10 quality applications that will kick off the interviews. So we'll keep you posted. Joe and I met with a couple residents of the Creek Road last week about the issues going on there. Doug is going to be painting some road markings for the 25-mile limit. I think we're going to need one post. It could be a stop sign that Jeff would need to put his flashing sign on, and then so there's really no post in the appropriate stretch of road there.
Yeah, we talked about supplementing the existing speed limit signs with some additional ones.
So wherever
Reinforce
he
it.
needs that sign, that would be
Not a problem.
just a good other place for the speed limit sign itself. And we have a resolution on the agenda for more to or add the county's hazard mitigation and township adoption of that resolution.
Any questions for the chief?
you for your follow up.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Next up. Building and zoning, Mr. Butte.
Mr. Chairman. Last month, we had 82 permits that were issued out of the department. There are no zoning hearing board applications. We'll have a busy planning commission. We have Shahada Land Development, that's in the village of Letter Rock. They came in a while ago, proposing 3 plans. They were, they saw on their end, they did not resubmit, and now they finally submitted, so they're looking to be in front of the planning commission in the September period. Also, we should have 355 Maple Avenue trail discussion. My understanding at the last meeting, they were requested to go back in front of the planning commission for further discussion. That's also on the agenda. They were supposed to actually meet last month, the July, August Also, tentative is 196 Main Street additional use. Now that's tentative because they still needed to address other zoning for the site. I would be discussing part of that today with you. So I don't know if they actually need to be on the agenda. They were already in front of the planning commission. And so they might still be stuff on their end. Also, 785 Craftsman Road, it's a 3-lot subdivision, the Tuttle subdivision. That was in front of the planning commission, all the other grass. Clean things up and then come back in front of the planning commission, they have checks in. Okay, so the deadline for submission for the September meeting has already passed. But in this case, it was only a couple of things that they really the button up. Like give this 45 Mainland, additional use, the same thing, they took themselves off of the agenda from last month. So that's a tentative thing for them. Planning commission this month. Potential.
That's the museum, right?
That's correct. They actually wanted to meet with staff regarding the CKS. Agenda. So a couple of ordinance amendments that I wanted to discuss with you, one being the non-conforming building. And this is something that was brought up a while back, and it was a part of the ordinance that I thought was curious. That actually we thought was curious with regard to expanding the non-conforming buildings. And what that means, we have a building that is an older building that's located in setback, for instance. That building cannot be in our ordinance, that building cannot be expanded without having to go for the cemetery order. And what I found that is more typical is that there is a reasonable expansion of a non-conforming building without having to go straight from cemetery order, demonstrate hardship. So we did some research, and sure enough, a good majority of the neighboring municipalities do have some sort of law and ordinance that allow for reasonable expansion. Buildings, whatever works for that municipality. So what we're proposing here is something that for residential buildings, the expansion of non-conforming building can happen in accordance with the code without having to go for cemetery court, as long as you don't go closer to the property line. Okay, if you're already close to the property line, as long as you don't make that situation worse, then you can do that by right. Well, you have to go for cemetery court at all. If you're a non-residential building, then you would have to go in front of the cemetery court for some exception, and then that there is a limitation how much you expand that non-conforming, and that would.
What does the county model? Is there a county model for this? I was looking for one, I couldn't find one, sell for the class.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, there's a ton of. But part of the discussion was to ask the board if wanted us to proceed with this, and then we would actually then present it to the county.
Yeah, I know this is a neighbor across the street from mine. They were renovating, expanding, and they had to redesign the whole thing because his setback on the side of the house. So instead of going straight back along that edge, he had to move it over like 20 feet. So it was a real mess for him to try to get it, what he wanted in there. And it would have been so much easier if he stayed along the same setback line, the existing house.
So which one you were telling me about on, Upper Mainland River, so right? By the golf course?
Right, there's one off Upper Main Road where the lot itself is, it's a grandfathered lot. Okay, and it met most of the setback, like the front yard setback and the rear yard setback, but the side yard was off by 5 feet, so they would actually have to offset.
Well, and they only wanted to go up. All they're doing is they just want to go up,
Are you kidding me?
but they would have to offset the second floor by 5 feet. Yeah. So, I mean,
Why is it set up in the current, for example, drive there? Is it to get a further buffer neighbors, or what is it? What was the intention of why?
Not sure what the intention is. This might have been a part of the ordinance that was. That originated when the ordinance was adopted, the original ordinance was adopted in the fifties. So I think it's antiquated, I think that back then when it was actually adopted, of course, much less development. For land, houses on big plots of land and the structure of the township was a lot different than it is now. So I just think it's just ordinance that needed.
Which municipalities, curiosity, because I couldn't find a model, but I looked at some municipalities, I didn't see any of that, I didn't see some of that, that's more similar to ours.
I don't have it in front of me right now, I could actually pull it up here, but I believe Franconia has a clause. I can get you that information, because I actually did a draft memo, and I can get you that. The handful, some sort of clause for expansion. There was actually another case I thought was really interesting. A couple of years ago, there was an applicant that had to obtain a variance in order to do rear addition on their house. But the variance they needed to ask for was a front setback variance. Because it's a 75-foot long, they need the R1A, or at least we'll make work. And they were well in because it was an older house and they are setback, but building addition. It's just odd.
A friend of mine on Southwark Boulevard, the same thing, because the house, it's an old farmhouse that sits right on the road.
Right.
So the house is in the setback, you're not gonna move the house, and they went up and out the back, but the same problem, they had to go in front of the zoning hearing board to get relief. Which should be something that is easily granted, but it's the rigors of, going through the zoning hearing board, paying your fees, getting an attorney, like it's demanding. If you've ever been through the process, you would understand.
It's also most of the non-conformities were not created by the applicant. It was created when zoning overlaid onto existing structures. And that,
They were here long.
they were here
so.
before the zoning, right?
This also brings up a good discussion of being in the recodifying our codes or having some other entity come and look at this. Obviously, this is something that needs to be updated, perhaps. We have other things that could perhaps need to be updated. And honestly, this was brought to our attention because somebody is going to do something and wanted to, make sure that they could do this. And, I'd rather take a look at it. We've discussed it before. If you guys get the township magazine, first of the month was first of the year was a whole thing on that, right? I think we discussed it as well, how important it is to go over recodifying everything.
We are going through the zoning code right now.
We are, but again, what brought
With the
this,
planning commission.
and what brought this to? That's, this was brought to us because somebody needs to put the vagina in.
That's not somebody that it's just through the process, through the years, identifying the appropriate certain ordinance sections. This one stood out by me as being something that I was used to be, for it to be different, allowing some sort of reasonable expansion of non-conforming buildings. But that we are looking at it at the planning commission level for comprehensive analysis of the zoning ordinance. We're actually doing that by district. So that's also the process.
I felt that this was brought about this 196.
I know, you're talking about different ordinance.
This one,
We're on this one right now. This is the non-conforming one. Those are the other ones that we haven't talked about yet.
no, that meant this, I thought that will work out. That's what brought this, that's what I mean, what brought this.
Well, the non-conforming one, I think Mike's brought up a couple times because there's been a number of people who have had oddball situations that have needed to be addressed that many other municipalities have handled through a permitting process rather than a zoning hearing process by allowing it in the zoning system. So this is on the agenda for tomorrow night to authorize.
No authorization yet. This is actually just asking if the board is okay with
I'm sorry.
moving forward with this, sending it to the county.
Yep.
Review and
Yep.
Okay, so there's the other ordinance amendment, one that is. One that was actually brought to us by an applicant. That is. The amendment that they have a plan in the not right now, and there were some inconsistencies that they've identified therein, and they are proposing a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. One of the amendments is allow for bank in the district. And another one is to clarify access. This again is the question for whether or not you would like for the town to move forward and analyze this. And
I thought the previous one was brought up, I think, I don't know if that's broken down, but again, my kind of take is still. About that. Against this, I think it's so difficult, really, but the kind of updating. From the outside edit.
Did we ever, I know this has been discussed for a little while, but under the class 3 conditions. It seems odd that banking and financial institutions weren't included to begin with. Is there a reason anybody can recall or understand why?
I think one of those items that I think was missed, it's an old section of the ordinance. And from a zoning perspective, to allow for restaurants and retail apartments and not financial institutions is curious. It seems appropriate to allow for a bank if you're allowing for a restaurant. Yeah.
That one made more sense to me. Well, again, this one of the things though that I'm not gonna, but let's update this. But the other one, I don't see sense. That would be G2.
Right.
If we have these for reasons, I have to know more about that. That's the one I also found for neighboring.
So the applicant believes that there's some inconsistencies with access, required access with the ordinance. So for something like this, we would be looking on CPS's analysis of proposed amendment and the existing amendment, whether or not there are inconsistencies. So this would, we would be looking at it from that perspective as well. And
There's no harm in looking at it. If we still have to come back to us to authorize a hearing on it.
I have no problem with them coming and presenting, saying, hey, here's what we're thinking, but again, I don't see otherwise. Sure, I'll consider it, but I don't think we should pick and choose, okay, let's fix this one right now. Obviously, it's something that is being used right now would be beneficial for them, but again, we should probably take, maybe further discussions that we have to really look into everything, so we don't get into these situations again. Well.
But I mean, I'll go back to the planning commission with our consultant being the county planning commission is going through each of the zoning ordinances. So the question would be, do you wait till it gets to this zoning ordinance to have this discussion, or do you look at it at this time? That would be the two choices.
right, and this was brought up by an applicant, this was not brought up by.
Right. And then the other one is, it's
How it takes access on a corner lot.
right. I mean, I that one, I think it just needs more clarification, because obviously we spent a lot of time trying to keep Main Street with access management. And, you know, is this the right answer to this question?
Well, and I take it even a step further because this is a corner lot at Quarry in Maine.
Right.
And with the mixed use development, which will likely occur at some point on the other side, do those access points make sense, right? A little more planning. A little more forethought. If in fact we go along.
But we don't have to.
We don't have to do that.
No, you guys have it.
Interpret the ordinance as is, yeah.
I said we do that. This, I mean, I don't know what the ramifications are for this down the road.
Well, it's limited, this is limited to the RO district, am I correct about that? So there's not a whole lot of RO left in the township.
I guess the question is. As the ordinance is currently written. What access would they be allowed to have?
I would need to go look at the CPS for that, because they're required, as we know, just mentioned that there's a lot of attention to access in the RF district. Matter of fact, one of the items that we're also dealing with in the township is that shared access behind the opposite side of Main Street.
Right.
For those businesses there. So the same thing on the south side of Main Street. You have limited access to Main for certain lots and required access between the lots. So I would need to take a look at the CPS.
I just remember there had been some discussion at some point, there was conflicts within the RO zoning district, the way it was written. That it wasn't as clear as it could be as to where the access should be. In some places it says limited to the lower level road classification, but then there's one about having 2 points of access. It wasn't clear.
I think it was regarding corner lots.
Yeah, and it was specifically with corner lots, so I'd just be. However we proceed, it would be nice to know the, you know, answer from our consultants of what's the right way in their mindset to do this, because. We can't always assume our ordinances are written as well as we would have liked them to be either.
Yeah, I just,
Doesn't mean I go along with the change, it just
Yeah,
means,
fine.
what's the right answer?
right, my personal opinion is they bought the property under certain conditions. And for us to change, make it better for them, isn't something that they knew what they bought, so let's not change ordinances to make it better for them.
I agree with you 100%. In fact, I think this is the same time that I brought up this discussion when they changed our signage ordinance. Completely changed it, raised our height 3 feet, you know, we did that whole thing. I didn't think it was right that we should do it just for this property. Here they go again, that's my take. So
Right, but you can't be so short-sighted as to understand that there are reasons why you would want to access this if you're gonna make the other adjacent parcels take access through their property. And as opposed to putting access out on Main Street, there are benefits to the township.
Yes.
And looking at this a little more holistically.
I believe the last time they did too, it wasn't just in this district that their proposal was, it's for various districts around. our township.
Well, This is specifically for the RO district, and my only comment is. Every now and again, the proposal may be better than what we have. Okay, and if it isn't, then we don't go along with it, but I'd just be curious as to what is. Like Stephanie and Michelle, what would be the right answer for traffic interface on this?
And who pays them for that?
That comes out of their effort. Yeah, this is us reviewing their application. They've made a request to look at this. We'll look at it on their dime and it may very well come back and say, no, we don't want to do it. Right. There's no precedent. They've asked for something, and is our ordinance the best that it could be from that standpoint? Somebody's gonna get developed in that corner. And if it gets developed the way it's currently written, do we get the outcome we're hoping for? Or in spite of ourselves, we're gonna get a worse outcome because we weren't agreeable to something that may have changed it. That's really the discussion. I understand that.
Question on the table is, do we want Michelle and Steph and Mike to look at these that have come before us? For a yes or a no?
Right.
I wouldn't mind.
I don't see the harm, I don't see the harm, in it. I
Yeah.
think it's worth looking at, because it
Coming
may
out of
be a
their
benefit
estimate, it's their cost.
that's,
Right.
that we're not seeing.
If it's on their dime, then
What's the harm? Clear marching orders, you got it?
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you, sir. All right, anything else for Michael?
Couple questions. I know I brought up. Now, who's in? On my way here, it's called crossing, like one lot or one like maple. And then I didn't see any people. That's all these days, but we walking shore. Hurriedly maple. We have an update on the crop fall. And that's
I
like,
could look into that. I know that they have been finishing up paving there. And that would have been first thing to finish up all paving.
But it doesn't look like it's on April yet, but it looks like it's March. If we can get it, I mean, they should be doing that, like. Yeah, it should be doing it now.
that's what I said. Another question regarding that too. The Alford Park sign. Were they going to move that sign closer to, I know we discussed it first.
No, they're not gonna move the sign. They're gonna leave it there and they're gonna put a smaller sign in where the Y is on the new road with Alder Park, and there's gonna be an arrow sign saying this way. Okay. They're gonna leave the sign where we just didn't think it made a lot of sense to move the sign any closer to that intersection.
Another sign.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they'll be signed inside. Once you turn in, and you can either make the Y into the park or into the neighbors, the development.
and Fox Lane is providing that, so,
That's correct.
and I think we had to get an easement.
Yeah, there was an easement that we had to get through the homeowners association, because that's homeowners association property. They secured that.
I thought
Just one more on that, then, while we're on that topic. What is the finished condition off of the Alderford driveway to the new fields? What were they gonna leave? A stone parking lot? Anything? What do we have to do? What do they end up having to do out there?
Supposed to be a stone,
Okay,
yeah, there's still.
There's still a ways to go with those fields. We're not.
Those fields. Still significant amount to be done in the fields.
Okay.
Stuff, utilities. Into the site.
There's a blade of grass per square foot.
yeah, oh, bad, yeah.
Going, Mike. All right,
Thanks, Mike.
thanks, Mike. Mr. Chakowski.
Thank you. Mr. First item of the manager's report is a review of the meeting minutes for August 2nd. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, corrections? Right. The agenda for tomorrow night, unfinished business, contract award 2023 construction equipment rental with operator. It's a prevailing wage contract. This is required for a couple of the projects that we're working on. Specifically the Sturgis Road culvert replacement project, and so forth, and they're requiring that we. Our other contract was over a year old, so they wanted us to re-up, get a new contract in place. Authorization to advertise for State Route 63 and 113 traffic signal upgrade, this the Green Light Go program that Mr. Jones mentioned earlier. New business resolution 2023-26, acceptance of the Morewood Road right of way from Vernfield Premier Realty. Number B or letter B, resolution 2023-27, setting forth minimum municipal obligation for police to perform employees pension fund for calendar year 2024. Resolution 23-28, adoption of the Montgomery County 2022 hazard mitigation plan. Next, a motion to approve and execute the easement agreement between Park Crossing and Salford and Lower Salford Township. This is actually the agreement for the sign, which we were just discussing. A motion to approve and execute sanitary sewer easement for Stover Road between Lower Salford Township and Lower Salford Township Authority. This is for the installation, I think, of a new, an upgraded.
It's to abandon the pump station.
That's not to abandon it. I don't believe it's, I believe it's for the installation of a new it a force main or a gravity main?
Gravity, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, is that the one that?
it may be related
From
to the
the
abandoning of the
Hangman
pump
Ridge,
station.
pump station, when you
Yes.
bring it down that hill.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
so, yes, it's on the way of doing. that.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
yeah, in the path.
Yep.
Next item, authorization to execute consulting agreement service with GMS. This item, after our discussion today, will probably not be addressed on the agenda tomorrow, so we will remove that. Motion to approve fire police assistance at the Harleysville Rotary Club for the annual Halloween parade on Saturday, October 21st. And motion to approve fire police assistance to Eckhart Auto Body for their car exhibit and open house on Saturday, September 30th. Additionally, I'd like to just give the board a financial update. As of September 1st, revenues are at 81% of budget, which is $7,219,000 $391. That's which is 81% of budget versus 80% of budget at this point last year. Revenues are at 63% of budget, $6,409,839 versus 65% of budget last year. So the revenues were $149,000 ahead last year. Expenditures were $59,000 below last year. So in both categories were.
Excellent, man.
Beautiful.
And I don't believe we need an executive session.
Oh, no, again, I just sent this out to take a look at, but yeah, this is something sent out a communication committee survey that gave one of you a copy to take a look at, and some recommendations that discuss in the future on our next meeting, or 2 more meetings until then. And what this is for general public too is we do have texting capabilities as we discussed. We went back, we reviewed extensively. Holly helped out as well at a meeting with Ready Marco, found out can do non-emergency text messages as well. So something like the where's a heckler vest or something that we would normally have go out in our constant contact. So this gives residents a new opportunity to opt in to click to have emergency or non-emergency text message alerts as well. And not just residents, but anybody in the Ready market. So, well, what this is some of the survey results and what people saw, some recommendations that the committee put together. Again, we just wanted, on behalf of the committee, they want me to hand it out, have everybody take a look at it, and hopefully future discussion, we'll have 2 more meetings before our next meeting.
Is there any action we need to take on this? Because I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not-
I think we can say, go ahead. Most of the motion anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if we do that'd be great. Again, this is just some recommendations, a reminder of our town, cautionary words for road travel, informational alert, events, pretty much everything that's discussed. And based upon our survey, 28% of residents would prefer text messages.
The reason to delay.
And that,
Get to it.
that'd be great. So we make a motion that we send out text messages in this fashion according to the recommendation of the communications committee.
I'll second his motion.
Moved in second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. Ayes have it.
That's
There is no reason. It's always sunny in Lower South.
I will point out, I said 2 meetings, but it's really about.
All right, with no executive session,
Do you have an executive session? Sure.
No.
Actually, yes, yes, we did. Brief executive session, I'm sorry.
false alarm on the no executive session. All right, very good. With that. Is everyone
Get
fine?
done. I'll take it.
Thank you.